I'm wearing green this morning because last night was UFC Rio fight night and we made money. It was Moneyball MMA's debut with 1 to 4 star bets, and I'm proud to say that I got a 30% return on my money. I'm going to highlight those fights for you and talk about those bets. And best of all, I'm going to talk about the main card and Charles Oliveira's big win last night. So stay tuned. Let's get going. All right, before we get into my 1 to 4 star bets, we've got to talk about the secret sauce last night. If you watched the previous video titled Your Trend is Your Friend, you see that I laid out a thesis that Vegas does not price in home Octagon advantage into their lines. But last night at UFC Rio, my thesis was validated. In 2025, me and my team did research on every international fight, and 83% out of hometown advantage fighters won their fight. Last night at UFC Rio, 7 out of 11 hometown fighters won their fights. Moneyball MMA took advantage of the home Octagon favorites by pricing this into the money line and winning those bets. I'm going to briefly take you through my winning bets. My first bet was a 1-star 3-fight parlay between Pilastri, Petrino, and Mesquita at -124. We hit that bet. Next up, I have my 2-star bets. I hit one, didn't hit the other one. The first one, I had Rocha winning by a knockout. This guy had plenty of times to get the win by knockout. He ended up getting the win, but not by knockout, so didn't get that one. The next one was the fight against Petrino and Peterson. Petrino ended up with a knockout in the 3rd round. I got the W on that one, really happy. Next up are my 3-star bets. Ramos versus Ofli at -180. Ramos spends way too much time on the heel hook, leaves his back open. Ofli takes advantage of it, ultimately gets a submission. I get the loss, but hey, if I'm going to take a loss on any of the 3-star bets, I'd rather take it on that one because the next one comes in big. It was Charles Oliveira at -115. He gets the big W. I'm in tears, crying, screaming, so happy for Charles. I get the W too. Now my 4-star bets. These are basically the same as my 3-star bets. However, I had Ramos coming in at +200 with a finish and Charles Oliveira with a finish at +150. Ramos did me dirty, gave me a loss. However, Charles Oliveira came in, saved the day with his big rear naked choke and got the W, not only for himself, which was huge, but also gave Moneyball MMA their win, giving us overall a +30% return on our money. My goal here at Moneyball MMA is to give you asymmetric returns. I'm going to win some and I'm going to lose some, but over the long term, I'm looking for the mispricing in Vegas lines to give you the advantage in your bets. Before I get to the main card, I just want to give a shout out and recognize a fighter on the undercard, and that's Bia Mesquita. She comes in as a 10-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, and wow, did she dominate last night. She took her opponent down forcefully. She is jacked and super strong. Came in with some big ground and pound, some nasty elbows, ended up winning by rear naked choke. I think we're going to see Mesquita in a title contention sometime within the next 18 to 24 months. Let's talk about the main card. The first fight on the main card was Ramos versus Ofli. I talked about that fight in my 3 to 4-star bets, so I'm not going to go over that one again. The next fight was Jonata Diniz versus Mario Pinto at the heavyweight division. Diniz comes in swinging. Mario Pinto shoots for the takedown, gets the takedown, which right there, very interesting. This guy's a heavyweight. You usually don't see heavyweights decide to take it to the ground. Pinto won his contract on the Contender Series by striking, so I'm just thrilled watching this fight because he comes in showing a lot of versatility. Ends up going into the 2nd round with another takedown, just kind of smothers Diniz altogether, is dominating him on the ground, and ends up getting a high mount in the 2nd round. Lots of ground and pound, gets the big W. Really excited for Pinto. At 27 years old, I think he has a bright future in the heavyweight division. The 3rd fight on the main card is a welterweight bout, Vicente Luque versus Yoel Alvarez. Now, I think everybody that was betting bet that Alvarez was going to win by finish, but this whole fight was bizarre from start to finish. So in the 1st round, Alvarez punches Luque in the eye. Luque looks at the ref, goes to his knees. Everybody thinks that it's an eye poke, but it turns out that the punch was legal. And so there's some controversy there. Michael Bisping was also kind of got in a little bit of a verbal exchange with his co-commentator. Anyway, the first round just ends in a bizarre kind of manner. So we go into the second round, and clearly Alvarez is dominating Luque. Luque is taking serious damage. He makes it to the third round. Alvarez gets Luque, has him in this bizarre leg Darce choke, and just sits on it against the cage. And for about 2 minutes, nothing is happening. We're at a complete standstill. It's almost like the TV froze because nothing is happening. And we're thinking, what is happening here? And I don't know if it's a mercy play on Alvarez's part that he just decides he feels sorry for Luque. I don't know, but he could have finished him. He could have landed 12-6 elbows. Nothing happens. Time runs out. This ends up in decision. Alvarez does take the win, but it's a little bit strange because this was his debut as a welterweight, and I would have thought that he would have liked to take his first win as a finish. Doesn't matter how he does it because he ends up getting it done, but that was a weird fight, guys. Now moving on to the co-main event. This was a bantamweight fight, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson. This was another weird one, but I'm super excited because I think this fight was a clear example of home octagon advantage. Montel Jackson, we've watched him in his last few fights. He's got those super fast hands, one punch knockout power. We've seen it time and again. I expected Deiveson Figueiredo to walk into this fight and get hurt. I think most people had bets on Montel Jackson winning. Naturally, he was favored to win. However, something happened and Jackson was ultra cautious. He basically did nothing. Clearly, something was going on with Montel Jackson because he was rendered basically useless. Figueiredo shoots for a takedown in the first round, peppers him with a little bit of ground and pound. Montel Jackson scrambles out. We go to the second round. Jackson does come in with some punches, doesn't really do any damage. We get to the third round, and again, there's like nothing taking place. They're just walking around each other. You can tell that Jackson is just, he is really disrupted by something. This is where I think the home octagon advantage came to play. Less with Figueiredo and more disadvantageously because Jackson just wasn't on his game. I don't have the stats, but I'd like to see what the significant strikes were for Jackson because he just wasn't himself. I was happy for Figueiredo. If I was going to put my money on this bet, I would have put it on Montel Jackson, but my sentimental favorite was Figueiredo coming in, getting the win, was very emotional, and I'm happy with the outcome of the co-main event. And now for the main event, Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. Now, my path to success for Charles, because let's face it, Mateusz Gamrot is dangerous. And I picked Oliveira to win, as you know, in my bets. The way that I thought that he was going to win is by pressing forward for two reasons, offensively and defensively. Offensively, because we know that Charles is way stronger on his feet. And two, defensively, to keep Gamrot at bay from his takedowns. Now, we knew that there were going to be takedowns. We know how dominating Mateusz Gamrot is. And sure enough, Gamrot shot, he got the takedown. Charles quickly flipped that, had him in a potential armbar, and then had his shoulder locked up. He did not submit to any of Mateusz's takedowns. We go through that round. Charles pretty much dominated the entire round. You could tell that in the second round, again, home octagon advantage, and also Charles's outstanding jiu-jitsu and grappling. You could tell that Mateusz was now thrown off of his flow. I will say that on the feet in the second round, Gamrot did pepper Oliveira with some punches, didn't do much damage at all. They go down to the ground again. Charles ends up winning in the second round with a rear naked choke. Actually, it was kind of a face crank, but it was just dominating. Classic Oliveira, stunned us. It was beautiful. Charles Oliveira gets the win in outstanding style. Guys, this is why we love this man. This is why the world loves Charles Oliveira. I'm jumping up and down screaming. I couldn't even sleep. I watched that fight like 4 times. Super happy. And yeah, Charles with the W. All right, guys, that wraps it up. UFC Rio. It was a big win at Moneyball MMA, not only because we made over 30% return on our money, but my boy, my favorite, Charles Oliveira gets the big win, and he's back. Let me know what you thought in your comments. Who were you rooting for? Did you win your bets? Is Charles Oliveira your GOAT as well? Let me know. See you next time.